In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful. There are certain emotions which are found in almost each and every, which are found in each and every human being. We are the emotional beings. Our intelligence, our wits, our brain, our mind does work, does control us, there is no doubt, but sometimes we are overwhelmed, ridden by the emotions. And this is something really very sad state of affairs. Every time we are ridden by the emotions, we do incur certain losses. This loss could be a bearable one, and even it could be a very big one, it could be a huge one, it could be an unbearable one as well. For example, the emotion of anger. We do become angry off and on. And if at all during the anger, if at all we are angry over someone else and we start squabbling, we start fighting, this fight might get prolonged and might go beyond our expectation as well. Even some of the murders does take place as a result of fights which began from something very small and not big at all. So it is very necessary indeed to control this emotion of anger from the very beginning. And we should not allow it to grow. We should never ever allow it to grow. We must control it from the very beginning. We must exercise the patience. We must avoid those thoughts which makes us emotional. The emotions does begin and does start. The emotions does begin and does start from the negative thinking. And all the thoughts which makes us emotional must be controlled. All the thoughts which makes us emotional must be controlled from the very beginning. Otherwise we do have to incur loss, we do have to face the trouble. The situation could become problematic. Anger is like a fire. Anger, once we do confront someone else with anger, we are angry over someone else and we do start a kind of fight, and a fighting competition does begin. Each one of the people, each one of the participants want to hurt and harm the other party more than he she has been harmed. This sort of scenario is really troubling. It is like a fire, and the more fire grows, the more difficult it becomes to control it, to extinguish it. And the right strategy to control the damage being done by the fire is not to let it lit, not to let it begin. We must avoid the beginning of the fire. We must avoid the start of the fire. We must should control it from the very beginning. And that is the only way to be able to control it. That is, otherwise the fire will keep growing, and a time might arrive when there will be nothing left and everything else had been burnt. We must control the anger. We must control all the emotions, and we must control it from the very beginning. We should not wait it till the end. We should not let it grow first and then I shall be able to extinguish it. I think this is highly foolish, and because it is absolutely like that. I mean, if at all we are fighting, if at all we are angry over someone else and we have started a kind of fight, then it might might become out of control. So the right thing is to control it from the very beginning. So there is another emotion as well, which is I think it is the emotion of watching the porn. I think the people who have been addicted to it, this is a kind of addiction, and we the human being, the younger folks, must control this habit, because it will it the addiction of watching the porn, I think it is quite damaging to the health of someone else as well, and it can corrupt a person morally at the same time. So if at all we don't want to become a morally corrupt human being, if at all we don't want to become addicted to something which is quite injurious, which is quite harmful, which is quite unethical, I think all what we need to do is that we need to control it from the very beginning. Again, it is like a fire. Maybe every emotion is like a fire, and this emotion of watching the porn is a fire, is like a fire as well. And if at all we have allowed it to lit, if at all we have allowed the fire to begin, then after a bit of time we might not be able, and it might become, rather it does become quite difficult to control it. So if at all we are adamant, if at all we do want to control it, if at all we do want to avoid this addiction, all what we need to do is that we need to control it from the very beginning, and we must not allow it to lit, this sort of fire to lit. So all the emotions must be controlled from the very beginning. So these two are very common, because we must control our emotions, because the emotions are like fire. So we must control it from the very beginning, and we must not wait till the fire grows, because once the fire does grow, once the fire does envelop all the things, and it does spread, it becomes really very difficult, even impossibly difficult to control, to extinguish. Thank you.